Hello and welcome to our general overview of Dynamics 365 Business Central. I'm Rob Jolliffe, President of Sabre Limited. A little bit about Sabre. We are a Dynamics 365 Business Central implementation and training partner located in Canada. We specialize only in small and medium enterprise manufacturing and have customers throughout North America. Today, what I'm going to do is talk about some pretty high-level features of Dynamics 365 Business Central. And I'm going to try and focus on features that are more relevant to manufacturing. So let's start. First, let's go take a quick look at accounting. Quick warning before we begin. I am definitely not an accountant. My background is in manufacturing and engineering, but let's go through this very quickly because I know enough to be dangerous. So, as you can see, the Dynamics 365 Business Central accounting features a lot of different functions and capabilities. Let's go through it in quick order. So, chart of accounts, obviously. Dynamics 365 BC includes an indented chart of account structure where accountants can create their accounts and totals and subtotal sections quite quickly and easily. And this also makes the creation of an income statement or balance sheet pretty quick and easy. We support purchase invoices, which are obviously going to be the document that you receive from a vendor that you're going to be entering in as an accounts payable invoice. And it's got a fairly significant amount of functionality, including multi-currency. We also have the ability to do budgets. For European customers who use VAT in Europe, we have VAT capability. We are capable of handling sales invoices and sales orders. It has a full inventory control subledger to keep track of your inventory value. So this provides you with perpetual inventory. So as you can see, the accounting functionality is fairly sophisticated and thorough. There are over 130,000 companies worldwide that are using this product in one version or another. Sales orders. Take a quick look at the sales orders. So I've changed to the dashboard of a sales order processor. So this is a staff member, basically a CSR. And as you can see on this dashboard, there are a number of key performance indicators. Most of them are in these tiles, but there's also these two here that are sort of standalone under activities. This is telling me that there are currently 23 open sales orders and 6 are ready to ship, with 13 of them currently delayed, leading to an average of 7.2 days delay. You'll notice that underneath some of these, there are bars that indicate a color. So 23 open sales orders is not good for us because open indicates that they haven't been credit checked yet. Whereas 0 partially shipped is fine, but 13 delayed is much more than we want, and 7.2 days delay is much too much. So let's jump into the sales quotes very quickly and see what we can get from those. So here's a sales quote. We choose the customer that we're doing the quote for. We choose which item we're quoting. My favorite is the bicycle. How many the quote is for, and what the price will be. Once we have this quote prepared, we can print the quote and email it directly from the system. We can also take this quote and convert it to an order. If we go to process, here's where we can send this quote by email. We can make an order. We can even convert a quote to an invoice. Not a very common thing in a manufacturing company, but could happen in cash and carry environments. Let's go back to sales orders. Here's our 23 open sales orders. A sales order is capable of having the same information as a quote with a little bit more detail. We can have requested delivery dates on our sales orders. So if our customer wants our delivery on February 1st, it will automatically update the lines of the sales order with the same requested delivery date as we've just defined, if we so choose. So each line can have its own separate requested delivery date. We can designate how we're going to be shipping. We can create any number of different ship to locations for the customer. We can ship it out of different locations of our own. We have the capability also of defining, if we show more, things like a shipping advice, a shipping time, how many days it will take, who the agent is, what the service is, etc. After having looked at sales orders, let's look very quickly at purchase orders. Now we've logged into the system as a purchasing agent. Once again, we can see similar types of KPIs, key performance indicators, in tiles. In addition, we have a vendors list that are the vendors that this particular purchasing agent likes to keep their eye on. We see that we have 7 purchase orders ready to be sent or confirmed, upcoming orders. Another thing that I didn't cover in the sales side but is present on both are blanket orders. So we can create blanket orders with a delivery schedule on them, with an indication of a commitment to purchase a certain number over a period of time, but where the delivery schedule and the releases against that blanket can be changed as time goes on and as our needs change. Let's look at some purchase orders. And you'll see that the purchase order list and the purchase order itself look almost identical to a sales order, which is appropriate because it really is just the reverse of a sales order. Now that we've seen purchase orders, let's look at inventory quickly. Staying with our purchasing agent's role center or dashboard, we could go really quickly look at items. Items within Dynamics 365 Business Central are parts that are used to make parts, other parts, or are finished goods that we sell. We can buy them or we can produce them. Let's take a really quick look at one item, a rim. This is a purchased part. And as you can see, when we bring the rim up, we have a picture of the rim within the system. We have the capability of attaching documents to it. So if we have specifications or schematics that we want to include PDF files or Word documents or Excel, we can add them to our attachments. We can define attributes for items as well. So if this rim were to come in, if rim designs were to come in multiple colors, we could create an attribute called color. And for each item that we've created of a type of rim, we could designate which color that was. And then later we can search on it. Item changes can go through an approval request process, and we can also control things like our costs, what cost type we have, how we post the items and how they hit the general ledger when they're manufactured, what prices we sell them for, including per customer or per vendor purchase prices as well. We can define our replenishment rules for this item, whether it's purchased, produced, or assembled. We can define planning settings and item tracking, which means that we can serialize or lot number our items and control them. We can define which warehouse we're keeping an item in, and for each warehouse, we can redefine many of these characteristics to be warehouse specific, so that we therefore have the ability to have different replenishment rules, different item tracking information, all depending on which warehouse we are in. Now that we've quickly looked at inventory, let's look at manufacturing. So here we are on a production planner role center, and we're able to take a look at some of the information and capabilities of the system with respect to manufacturing. We have 4 types of manufacturing orders we can create. Much less frequently used is the simulated production order, which is used to simulate demand in our capacity. But planned, firm planned, and released are the most common. Planned are generally created by the MRP system, although they can be generated and created by end users for the purpose of generating purchase demand in the MRP system. Firm planned tend to be orders that we've committed to but haven't yet released to production, and released are production orders that have been sent to production. A finished production order is basically one that's wrapped up and no more time or labor can be collected against it, nor can any more materials be put into it. You can see also that we have the capability of creating a production forecast, so we can use sales forecast data to create a production forecast of finished goods that we want to produce. Blanket sales orders and blanket purchase orders are brought up here, and the sales orders and purchase orders because a person in manufacturing often needs to look at those. We also have the capability of running something called a planning worksheet, which is the MRP system and MPS system within the Business Central. For those of you who are in warehousing and distribution, It also includes distribution resource planning. And requisition worksheets, which are used for two purposes. First of all, so that someone in a production environment without purchasing capability can requisition work. And second of all, so that purchase requisitions can be generated dynamically by the system based on the production and sales that you've entered into the system. Finally, the system supports full subcontracting, including the capability of sending parts out for surface plating, additional production work such as milling or turning, painting, any kind of activity that a part needs to go through during its manufacturing process can be handled with the subcontracting. Now let's look at project manufacturing. All right, let's look at a project manager's role center. As we can see, the project management role center, again, is another new role center with different pieces of information on it. Let's look into jobs very quickly. I'm going to do a more detailed overview of this in another video. So if you'd like to take a look at it in more detail, you can. But basically what the project management solution, what is referred to as a job, jobs allow us to create jobs which are for planning, quoting, that are open and active or completed. Jobs allow us to define the currency that we're going to be doing the job in, which can be a foreign currency if we want to, and the invoice currency that we're invoicing in. So we can keep track of job costs in a foreign currency rather than our own currency, or we can keep track of just the invoicing of the job in that foreign currency. The job allows us to collect and manage work in process and do revenue recognition over time. So in project manufacturing, we're often not finished our project and our manufacturing process quickly. Sometimes it can take months or even years to complete, and so therefore we want to manage WIP. So there's an entire WIP management solution that's part of it. Sabre itself has added a number of different functionality to the project manufacturing, specifically for engineering to order companies. We call this Sabre ETO, and with the Sabre ETO module, we've also started adding user-defined fields. We've done this in several different areas. When we look at a item or a task in our project, we can drill down into that task and we can actually see the what are called planning lines of the job. So if we jump into the planning lines, we'll see the individual, in essence, BOM components that go into that job. In this case, my job is very simple. It's more of an assembly type operation, and I can put in items that are budget and I can put in items that are billable. So billable items can be passed on at a time and material rate to the client. Budget is usually meant for scheduling and planning what I will be buying on the job, and billable is meant for passing that cost on directly to the customer. Usually what we find is customers use the budget for most of their bill of material, and they do their billing in a separate section. So they might actually do their invoicing under its own task, which is specifically for invoicing. Finally, we have service management or field service. So let's take a quick look at field service. Some manufacturing companies provide, in addition to the manufacturing of their product, they provide aftermarket service of that product. And Dynamics 365 Business Central covers that with service management. I've logged in as a dispatcher role center. So once again, I see different pieces of information about the service state, the KPIs, key performance indicators for this person. And I also see the different types of service objects that can be created or listed. So let's go very quickly through these. Service contract quotes are a quoting system for providing a customer with a quotation for having a service contract against different items that they own. Service contracts are the actual contract that the quote creates, which are then allowed or create service orders, which are basically work orders for our staff or technicians to do repairs or service on items. Service quotes are for ad hoc repairs where a customer has a breakdown and is not on service contract and would like a quote. As I said, service orders are basically the orders that are dispatched and usually result in some sort of invoice to the customer. We can define standard service codes such as fault codes and symptom codes, which we can define when customers call in so that we can keep track of what was this type of breakdown. We can create loaners, so if customers need replacements for temporary use. We can also create service items, which can be either items we have sold to the customer or items they have purchased from a third party. So when the customer has bought a piece of equipment from a third party and we're providing the service item can be created on our system so that we can keep track of that. The other thing to note about service items is that they allow us to keep a history of all transactions, all service repairs, and costs and income from that item. So here we are in the Concord Water Department service order. We're looking at what this service order is for. It's for a piece of equipment, in this case a desktop computer. We're going to be invoicing them for it. This is the invoice data that's going to go. This is going to give us the location of the device that we have to go and do repair on work. A warning status as well can be set up to indicate whether we're warning a technician that they haven't repaired it yet, and we can put it into a first warning, second warning, or third warning to just elevate the priority of the service call. And that concludes my overview of Business Central features and functionality for manufacturers. Hopefully this has been valuable information for you. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Business Central, you can watch our other demos, and you can look into some of our deep dives into different areas of features and functionality that we talked about here. Thanks very much, and look forward to hearing from you soon.